the scientists, not the philosophers. They come straight on giving you analogies. The implication there is you're too fucking stupid to understand what I'm about to tell you, so let me draw a picture for you. I don't like that. Don't assume that about your audience. Trust me. So, let's see. I pace when I talk, if I can. When I used to work at Gateway, I did not like that we were literally chained to the phones with a corded headset. Gateway tech support. I worked in IT and tech support at Gateway. And, so my pace could only be 2 steps. So I literally was like wearing a fucking hole in the carpet there. And that's life. Anyway is a word that I'm not going to use too much more often. Too much more often? God, I'd have to look that up to see if I said that correctly. Correctly, L-Y. There's an L-Y on the end. Little English lesson there for you. Saw a new word today that I didn't know about. Winnow. Yeah, it's just random shit I'm doing here. Winnow. Do you know what winnow is? Well, some of you must know, because it's blowing in a way. Yeah, use air pressure to separate things. Whatever. Separating the wheat from the chaff. Or, blowing. I know some of you guys know a lot about blowing. Come on now. Don't bullshit me. I don't smoke pot. I should. Everybody else does. Tried it a few times. It made me tired, sad, sleepy, grumpy. Didn't help any of my pains, which I carry a few around with me. Holla out to Guy Shea, who continues to be the residual success at Spreaker, and Debbie Daly. They continue to drive the network both through their broadcasting skills and through the amount of shit they're able to stir up, and they're both very good at it. I think Guy has some of the qualities that I find appealing in a host, but also in a person's personality and its strength. And I think we, especially if we are the type that has a philosophy that believes you should live life strongly and bravely, you tend to group yourself with those types of people. And if you're kind of recessive and, I don't know, you don't want to be around people and you fear everything, then you don't want to be around those people. They intimidate you badly. You avoid them. So that's all personality stuff. We could get into it. Probably mostly decided by genes, a little bit by nurture. Anyway, so it has been a very weird day. I got to say that. When it comes to the fiction story I told you about earlier, and what it has forced me to ponder. We are now in a lifespan, if you're listening to this live or after. Yeah, so it doesn't matter. So it's either as of this day or after. So if you're listening to this at all, this assumes that you did not steal the recording and go back in time. Then we are getting to a point where we can keep your conscience and your brain and your thoughts and your memories and your DNA alive forever using science. Now that's kind of scary if you think about it, but because you would need to retain the decision to tell someone to turn you off and delete all the information, or you may be forced to live forever. Have you ever considered that? Well, I know the Christians have. Getting a little tired of having religion shoved down my throat. You guys know I'm agnostic. Don't push this shit on me, because I tend to push back when I get pushed. So I don't believe in your God. I don't care who he is. When I see evidence that he exists, I will then consider it and reconsider it. Until then, I have no reason to believe one exists. That doesn't make me an atheist. And Stabby would say, well, atheists don't say that God doesn't exist. They say that there's no good reason to believe that God does exist. And I'm saying, well, if that's atheism, then what is agnosticism? So we have a disagreement about that. It's ongoing. It is limited by our language. And language is a huge barrier. I think everybody should know that. To spreading ideas, sharing information, and like some of the philosophers of old, understanding that when you talk to someone, like I'm talking to you now, and here's another language. That was not a sound effect. Then you are putting a picture in their head, or some pictures in their head. And great misunderstandings rise when your picture that you're trying to give them has not entered their head in the way that you would intend. This is a misunderstanding. Happens all the time. It's just a matter of degree. Sometimes it leads to murder, war, rape. Worse things than rape, like war and rape. Yes means no, no means maybe. Launch means hold on, wait, was that a false reading? I got to hit 3 terrorists. I can't waste a missile on 2, that kind of thing. So the picture that you get in your head through communication has to be the picture that was intended from the distributor of the picture, if indeed they wanted it to be interpreted that way, or you have a misunderstanding. This, at this point, is not really limited by our cognitive abilities. Most people can imagine some pretty crazy shit. It looks to me, in a Noam Chomsky kind of way, that our limit is linguistic right now. We don't have enough words. We don't have enough ways to describe what we're trying to say, to make sure that the picture we're trying to put in someone's head as we communicate ends up looking in their head as we intended it to. And as long as that problem exists, there's not going to be peace in the world. You can be sure of it. Misunderstandings lead to more problems than probably anything else, if you really calculate it. Information exchange, misinterpretations. So, yeah, Guy and Debbie, they were being friendly, and then they were fighting each other. I don't want to talk much about Spreaker host. I want to go a little bigger than that. But, and then one angry Jew turned on me. I mean, I was on a show with him a long time ago, and I was so kind. I listened to all his dumbass conspiracy theories about 9/11, knowing that he didn't have the evidence to back it up. And I'm sitting there going, and then I said, if you listen to the show, it's about probably a year ago, maybe more. I said, I got to pee. I got to pee. You know, I drink a lot of coffee when I do my show. A few times I've had a lot of alcohol to drink. Either way, I got to pee. I'm not going to pee on the radio. I'm just not going to do it. Although now, today, I've changed a little. I probably would. Yeah, I think I would. I haven't done it, but I will. I'll test that theory later. And so I was very patient, and he kept going on and on and on and on and on. He kept going on and on. And I was like, yeah, that's, I appreciate it and everything. Debbie's like, I'm going to put you on with one angry Jew. I'm driving. I got to do something, talk to him. And I forget what the whole rest of the show was about, but I'm listening. And I'm probably about the 6th time. I said, yeah, okay, this is great conversation I had with you. I still got to go. And he still didn't let me off the hook. Now, I was being polite, so I stayed. That's how fucking rude this motherfucker was. He didn't care that I had to piss. He just wanted to be heard. Just listen to my theory. So that's really all I have to say about him. Why he turned on me, I don't know. I didn't say anything about him. Next thing I know, I go to Triple M and JP show one day, and he says, who's that in the chat room? Kierstead, tell him to go fuck himself. And I'm like, where did that come from? And then he comes in and says some more shit in Guy's chat room, and I'm going, is this for real? I mean, I'm not going to attack him. He just isn't worth my time. So that's the only mention he gets tonight. All of you that do radio shows, I wish you luck. I hope you're getting through to the people that you're trying to get through to. If you're after fame and fortune, you may want to look in a different area. I would recommend floating cities, perhaps architecture of that sort, or maybe deep space travel and exploration, or hydroponic gardening. These are areas where you're more likely to get what you're looking for than a podcast or radio show. Too much competition, too few ears, and not really anything new being done or said. But I think that this discussion that we have, this important discussion we must continue to have about philosophy, psychology, paranormal stuff that people just tend to shun and ignore, although it's happening. We need to figure out what's going on there. I still don't really have any theories about it. I just don't believe that everybody is ignoring it. You can be too sciencey. RD forced me very, very gently. He has a good way. people from the Netherlands can talk you into anything. And the Flying Dutchman talked me into listening to a little Terence McKenna. Now, if you don't know who McKenna is, I would call him a pretty deep thinker who was, when alive, I'm pretty sure he's dead. If he's not, he might as well be. He liked to do the psychedelics, as he liked to call them. And he always spoke very clearly and made sure that you understood each of his words, and he would speak kind of slowly. It was a little bit like Mr. Rogers, except sometimes he would say words like bullshit. So, yeah, it's Terence McKenna. He is a deep thinker. I mean, he was. And he's a pretty interesting listen if you give him some time. He is able to ponder the overall gap between science and the rest of life. And we need that gap filled routinely. And I'm going to go back to that analogy that I told you. I despise analogies for the most part, and I still use them sometimes. But it's kind of like, having to wash your ass. You just have to do it. It's not fun, or unless you're some kind of, I don't know, maybe you enjoy yours, using toys or something. You just have to do it. So this analogy goes like this. This is my theory. This is K-Tab's theory. Could it have been said before? Sure, maybe. Don't know. Haven't heard everything everybody's ever said before. So as some philosophers in the past have done, we will treat it like it's new. And what I'm talking about here is a picture that I'd like to put in your head. And what it is a rope bridge. This rope bridge is made out of rope and wooden planks. Humans continue, if we continue on this natural curve we seem to be on, to increase in scientific intelligence and understanding. That's also going to be related to lexicon, as you know. Now, if you want to picture this, picture hills turning into mountains, and then mountains turning into very big mountains. And you have these rope bridges going across, okay? The science that's getting us to the next higher peak is the wood. It's pretty solid. It's useful. And it can be tested. And it can be, without it, you really couldn't get very far. But really, you could get across on just rope, couldn't you? It would just be harder. So we like having the science, but the philosophy is the rope. So when I hear these astrophysicists saying philosophy is dead, what I hear is, I'd like to sell more books, so I'm going to try to knock off an entire fucking genre of academia. And that bothers me a little. They should be more academically responsible than that. Philosophy is the rope. You got to have philosophy and science if you're going to get to the next peak. You have to. And you can't just ignore the rope. Go ahead and try with the planks. You're going to fall to your death. You're going to have some solid wood with you. Well, at least those of you that can get solid wood. But, you're going to die. Philosophy gives meaning from humans to the inside and outside of themselves. It gives meaning. Psychology is the edge of philosophy that was shaved off and blended with science. I'm giving you a new one. I just came up with that. It sounds right. In that way, psychology is a little more hard, a little more firm than philosophy. Because philosophy does not really claim to give answers, does it? It probes and it asks. And what it does do, or tries to do, is enhance clarity of understanding. That's what it tries to do. And in one way, it's like art, because there's no wrong answer, really, in philosophy. Until you get into critical thinking, which is a subdivision that is also scaled off and put into science, because logic and reason have very mathematical systems in place, and math doesn't really fuck around. But the big questions, why are we here? What are we supposed to do? Where do we go after? How did Justin Bieber get famous? These types of questions we're going to continue to have. And we're going to continue to ponder. But if we don't ask them and try to answer them or discuss our opinions on them, what fun is life going to be? There's going to be no flavor. I mean, this is the fun stuff. This is the stuff we don't know yet. This is the stuff we may never know. But we could know, possibly. So why not talk about it? Science